So we're ready to go.
Ready to go?
Alright. Good evening, everybody. I'm gonna call to order the Town of Swanton Special Select Board meeting, January 16th at 5:30. If you would please join us in the pledge of allegiance.
With allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Agenda review. I'm gonna start, and we would like to move the Swanton Village Police and Fire for the first two budget items we talked about, if everybody's okay with that. We are guests can leave if they choose to.
Pace to show up first.
Everybody good with that?
Yeah.
All right, anybody else? I'm just gonna ask you, anybody else have anything?
I have something very brief under executive session.
Okay, anybody else? We'll get this rolling. We'll start with the Swanton Village Police Department.
Your Honor, permission to approach.
Permission granted.
Want me to describe this?
That's okay.
And those will be before you get started.
Yes.
If it's okay with the board, I have copies, that we can walk through together with some highlights that might help for items that have increased over the previous year. Okay? Your neck over. Pass it around that way. Fire department first, if that's okay.
Yeah. All right. Let's go to the fire.
For the camera on Bill Sheets, the Swanton Village Manager. And you have, so this is exactly what was sent over to you and to Brian's package. And if we ignore the highlighted just for a moment, go to page 2. 2024 budget for the fire department is $388,901. The proposed 2025 budget is $417,287, an increase of $28,386. The budget drivers, the significant budget drivers, all increases are highlighted in yellow on the right side of the 2025 budget column. The significant increases are dispatching, property insurance, a little bit of training increase, rent, transportation. And then the largest increase is on page 2 under capital expenditures. And that's an increase from 70,000 to 85,000 in the equipment replacement fund. Side note on that, we're increasing that because are we scheduled to come in on the 18th of February? Okay, so we would like the opportunity to come in front of the select board on February 18th. Myself, trustee Paxman, chief Chevalier and his team, to give you a real comprehensive overview of our capital replacement plan. The good news is we are increasing this slightly in an effort to downsize our fleet and not go to bond for a piece of equipment until 2032.
You said
Fire departments,
you're talking equipment or?
equipment.
Okay.
Yes, yes, so without going into detail there, there's a reason we increased this slightly because we're gonna be able to do all of that. Increase efficiency and effectiveness of our fire department without impacting our citizens on bond until 2032. Which is significant.
So the overall increase,
$28,386.
0.75% for the poison made percentage, right?
Yeah.
Actually. And I gotta, and I know you charge rent to the different people who use your facility. What was the big spike in this faucet that large increase?
All of our property insurance, all of that stuff's in a formula and it goes in the rent. So every division increased significantly.
Yes, that 29%.
Yep.
There, I mean, I just made it out when we started, this summary sheet, this giving us a percentage of the budget.
Oh,
I
okay,
apologize for putting the line.
okay. So I guess open up to the board on any questions regarding the fire department. And if we've had it. One drafted it a little bit earlier anyway, but nothing too earth shaking and the differences here.
Where do they go after you get to your new office building? For the electrical,
They'll stay right there.
they'll stay where they are?
Yes. Yeah, we've settled, we heard the voters loud and clear, the fire department's not going anywhere.
Okay.
So part of the reduction in the truck plan that we'll detail in depth on the 18th. Is it will open up a bay for them to create a room that is climate controlled for. So they're not sucking in all the odors when they're getting out of the bunker.
Any other questions, folks? We move on to the police department.
Same question, is it okay to send around a handout?
Sure.
Okay, go.
I think you did, didn't you?
Not Chris.
I got the bucket.
You got police as well?
Marked up.
No, that's all marked up. Some highlighter.
Okay, no,
But I don't know how you got that.
I just happened to have two of the fires.
Email.
Yeah,
So this
that way-
this one's a little bit more complicated. Especially when we're talking about the contract situation, but let's do the same thing, once everybody has it, let's go to page 2. The overall request or the overall budget from last year was $1,563,096. The 2025 proposed is $1,743,718, a difference of $180,622. Cost drivers here are obvious. Salaries are up over 53,000, dispatching contract is up over 45,000. Insurance is up over 10,000. Workers' comp is up over 28,000. Retirement's up over 13,000, health insurance is up over 12,000. There are additional highlighted slight increases that totaled 180,622. The advantages are that we never hired, we hired the administrative assistant a little bit later in the year. And we were never able to hire the full-time certified officer. It's not for lack of trying, it's not actually a lack of applicants. We've had applicants that just quite candidly are not qualified to be in our organization, so we rejected them. Which I think is the right thing to do. We do not want to be in a position of hiring somebody that doesn't belong. So what we did to offset this impact is we took a carry forward of $90,000. And we split that up. So 1/3 of the entire police budget is yours, 2/3 is ours. So you're getting $30,000 reduction on your next contract, which I'll detail here in a minute. So I'm not sure candidly that every community would have done that. But that's the right thing to do, is to do the 1/3, 2/3 on the carry forward.
That's your upbringing.
have it all.
That's your upbringing for living on Hawaii.
I guess it is, just the right thing to do.
On dispatching, how much of the increase?
I think there's a lot of reasons, so let's talk about dispatching, because I want you to understand what we went through in that regard. We got what's called an introductory offer, I'm reminded of that by St. Albans City officials the first year. This next year, really, it turned into an 18-month contract, but it was a significant increase. They just signed a new contract. The dispatchers just signed a new contract, their pay has increased, their health insurance has increased. They're really, sadly, the only game in town.
And they're union, correct?
And they're union, and while I don't think it's an exorbitant amount based on what we're seeing industry wide. I do want to point out that I did reach out for my friend, the Secretary of Public Safety, Jen Morrison. And I tried to insist that they take us back for free. And she said no.
So that 100, so that's an 18-month contract,
this year?
That represents the annual budget, but we have signed an 18-month contract, but this reflects 1 year cost. So, but I did make an attempt, and the conversation with Jen Morrison was, look, help us out here. It's very hard right now to pass these kind of budgets, and I'm fearful that if budgets don't get passed, you're gonna do more than dispatch for us, you're gonna provide free policing services. It didn't work, but I tried.
Workers' comp.
Yep.
Is that more employees or the rate go up that much?
Policing, that's it. So for us in the village side, we saw similar increases for electric, public works and police. But because it's a very dangerous profession to carry guns, this is.
I know, it's an awful jump.
It is.
Year.
It is.
It's almost like you had a claim,
No claims, zero,
Same in any business.
yeah, no claims,
so the state raised the rate.
they sure did,
What percentage did they increase it?
I have no idea, I can figure it out, but I don't know. Off the top of my head.
And that's only one additional employee, or are you figuring on 2 additional employees?
No, one, so we have one opening, one sworn law enforcement opening that we hope to hire. We adjusted both budgets, the contract and ours, to reflect earliest possible be an April hire. Probably that's a dream, probably May, June.
What would the salary increase this year?
So great question. We have matched St. Albans City to stay competitive. So the increases, it really varied depending on your time and rank. In fact, for some, it was surprisingly barely met the 4% that we're giving all employees. For others, so what we did, if you're a patrol officer with 6 years of experience, we use their scale. If you're a sergeant with X years of experience, we use their scale. The only caveat was the chief, but he got 4%. So everyone else was slotted into the
So
same.
overall, what was the percentage? Salary went from
They went up $53,785 and if you left out your percentage. So from 844. 685 to 898.47.
Into last year's, right?
into the actual or the budget.
Into the budget. 6%. And that's important. I think that's really important for us to make sure we don't lose any of the officers we have just by going 8 months down.
And just for the record, if anyone plays, the video of the meeting. Even though you weren't able to do the hire in 2024, coverage that the town received remained 10 hours a day, 365 days a year, plus a little bit of extra that's done each period.
Correct, about 100 hours extra.
Right, yeah, just, there's some, say, well, wait a minute, they didn't hire, so did we get cheated out of any time, and I do handle it with overtime and other.
We do, and the worry is burnout and the factor. We often will forfeit village coverage. Are they listening behind me, the trustee and the village president? Contract.
Already
Did it?
noticed.
Did it? Oh, sorry, trustee Maxman.
Yeah, so I wanna make sure that people understand that.
One of the questions, I see that you went over budget, I understand that, you can't, the salaries. What's the increase budget of 898, 470 over the 866, 664 is what you actually spent?
I'm gonna go 3% because it's at 2250, yeah, I'd say 3%, 3.2 off the top of my head.
Okay, so if you use the proposed budget actual, that would be.
And sorry to hear you cover this, but just want to confirm, the department supplies, you guys had at 12,000 for your actual budget, you went to 44. is that a one-time purchase or what happened there that now we're moving up to 20,000?
No, that's a severe underfunding in that category and we're making up for it. So we discovered that there's various pieces of equipment. That's the other part, everything is increasing and little things that you would think are not much money are very expensive.
The town, school resource officer, do you still get funding for that?
100%. So there's nothing in your contract or even in our budget for that. It's 100%.
Is that for 2 officers?
No, that's for one.
Does it cover all the benefits?
It does.
Okay.
Yeah,
And workers' comp too?
everything.
Is that included in the total salary?
It's separate, so no, so up under school resource officer, under operating revenue.
Mhm.
That's incoming, so the school budget this year is $113,170.
That's a wash.
It's a wash.
You pay it, but they pay you, what it is.
They pay for his total expenses, if it comes back less than that, they pay less than it. So we don't make money on it, they pay 100% of his expenses.
I guess I'm
Salary, benefits, retirement, FICA, all that stuff.
just confused, I understand you show it as. What is it, school resource officer?
Yep.
You show that an income of 96,258. Where was it expensed?
I think it was expense under salaries and then all, yeah.
It's, yeah, and I am not sure, I don't have that budget detail, I'd have to follow up.
It's somewhere, I mean, if it's income, it's gotta be
Yeah.
expensed somewhere, I'm just curious if it's in the 866.
It is not there, I know that for sure.
Grant income. 293,000, I assume that it includes the resource officer too. Or that separate grant.
Should be all Stone Garden.
Correct, yeah, that's Stone Garden, so Stone Garden is, that includes the brand new pickup truck, that includes any reimbursable overtime. So if any of our officers, and many of them do a lot of it. Work very closely with the US Border Patrol, we're one of the primary agencies that provides support to them. 100% reimbursable. Everything is reimbursable to us, and they provide a great deal of equipment, so in 2024 it was not only a pickup truck. It was a trailer, and it was a utility vehicle.
I wanna go back to your question, so you're saying the salary, the workman's comp. Health insurance and all that, not. Where the expense goes for that 113,700.
That's correct. And I'll verify with Lynn, but so.
You talking the SRO?
Yes.
You're showing it
I
under the budget
think-
as a revenue, but.
But I think I think everything's built in, but I think we get the percentage from the school. We get the 113 or the 96, whatever it was.
Yeah, well, it shows
And
the
then it comes in and then
2025,
it's dispersed for that SRO officer.
I'm just curious why, it's nice seeing the income, where'd it go? If there was an expense.
yeah, I just figured
It's
because
probably got
it's salary,
most
health
likely went
benefits,
into
it'd be
salaries,
one of those
healthcare,
lines,
and
but.
and most likely filtered back into salaries and healthcare and FICA.
Oh, wait, stand by. Stand by. Okay. I'm wrong. Look at the detail sheet, next page. So this is a breakdown, so you fully understand exactly what is in your contract. So it's even one more page. So left columns, everything you see on the other side, then you see the deducts on the right hand side.
Just a page here.
Yes, it's got a lot of handwriting on it, but you know what, I thought it would be helpful, so I'm gonna copy it. And then this helps. You see where we arrive at the contract amount. And then, of course, it gets confusing, just 3 months are at the last contract, 9 months are at the next contract.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to mention, and you've got the detail here, which is good, is when you go up to the line that says town of Swanton police contract.
Yep.
And you look at the difference between the budget 2024 and 2025 budget, you say, wait a minute, that's a huge increase. But what this is showing, the 2024 budget carried 3 months. Of the budget prior, which was around 200,000 a year, not 400 something thousand, so. That's why it shows that lower number, the actual increase we're asking for. Is the difference between. 489, which is on that third page Bill has. And what we asked the taxpayers for, which was 475,057 last year. So that's what the increase in the actual request from the public is, not. Not this difference, they see that, and they'll say, wait a minute, that's huge, that's not the case.
You pick that up in your percentage,
Yes.
that's included in that.
Yeah, that's revised. 14,000. Yeah, actually, it's one of the lower. But next year, we're gonna get hit. Because we ain't gonna have that, anticipate the rollover.
I would anticipate, well, I hope we have no vacancy savings, because we need to staff our organization, but yeah, you're right, that's that is the gift for this year.
But 30,000 over that is not. Totally terrible, as long as we don't have significant increases everywhere else.
But that wouldn't just be a salary increase, we'd see that across health insurance, retirement, all of that as well. So,
Right.
Perhaps in the future, we'll see a year where we're not hit across every single line item, but. Haven't seen it in a while.
Good luck.
Yeah. Good, and there's so many unknowns right now headed into. Next year. There are, there's something very, very interesting.
So it gets to your contract amount, so it's more clear. That's the second part where it's January to March, total contract. April to December, total contract. The return, it's 500,000, the return of 30,000. So depending upon how you depict it. Your calendar year is 478, 117, 13. Or you depict it a different way, I don't know how you do it if you do it for.
We're gonna,
All 12 months and it extends 3 months, you know what I mean, I don't know how you show it, so.
yeah, we're gonna show the budget as you presented
Gotcha.
here, and then we're gonna ask the line item for the. 489, 137.19, and when people have questions, we're gonna try
Yes.
to explain it that night of.
Yes.
What is really taking place.
Yep.
What I want the board to think about, and we won't solve it tonight, is we've gotta figure out how to get on to a. January 1, 31 December contract and budget with
Makes more sense.
the village. There's a little danger if budget gets voted down. Then we've gotta deal with that right off at the beginning of the year, but at least it doesn't make it so. Crazy as far as the numbers, and it makes more sense to be on the same,
This could be confusing, it's something.
Yeah.
Figure this out.
you
It
know.
can be, and we're amenable, next time you'll wanna go to just 9 months, or you wanna go to 21 months to get it on a calendar year? Either one.
That's when I was looking at this, police contract of 47,000, that's over 50,000 a month for 9 months. Multiply that to 12, 600,000. I don't know, if they adjusted these to 9 month ones, right, it would look a little better, if somebody picks that up. And say, well, but that one.
Yeah, we actually, Kathy and I went over this number. And it is correct,
For 9 months.
well, it's 9 months plus
The
3 months at the lower rate.
Oh, okay,
3 at 2.
So that's what we're actually paying in 2015.
Yeah.
so if you're giving us, if you, yeah, in 2025, it's not 478,000.
No, we're gonna carry 3 months of that over, Kathy actually carries that balance to cover the contract.
Okay, all right, I understand.
Yeah, so that's, we almost need to make a slide.
Yeah.
Which shows
True.
each month
Yeah.
and what it is, and then the fact we're gonna actually carry over 3 months to cover into calendar year 2026.
You've got written on the bottom, town contract, 489,137 and 19 cents. Is that for 12 months or 9 months?
Well,
That's for 12.
12 months.
12 months, 1 April, 31 March. Yep.
Divided by 12, 9 times is what you're gonna pay in 25.
And add to that,
so 26.
Yeah.
Well, if I took that 489,137 divided by 12, do I have a monthly payment?
For 9 months of the contract, yes, and 3 months of the following.
Divided by 12 and
Yeah,
multiply.
okay.
Starting
But I got 12 months.
Yes,
Yes.
that's a 12-month number right there.
Yeah, it's confusing.
And the 12 months. What? We went to the taxpayers for in 2024 was 475,057, so it's not a very large increase, no, like 30,000 really helped out, yeah.
But I would agree with your point, though, I do think it would be smart to get on that calendar year, because this is,
Yeah.
trying to read this is.
It's one thing to sit here and people with numbers and budgets a little bit, and you throw that up in a meeting where things get heated and all of a sudden.
Yeah.
We don't believe that, that doesn't make any sense, you know, and yeah.
Times that by 12, that's not equal what they're paying, like what's going on here, so yeah.
Yeah, I can see it,
And each time we can get some uncovered hours.
should start, yeah, yeah,
Sure, we got it.
yeah, absolutely. Any other questions? Yeah, if there aren't any, I guess I would ask for a motion for fire department separately and the police department separately.
I'd make that motion, Mr. Chair,
Which one?
for both.
Oh, okay, make a motion to approve both as presented. So
Or the
you're-
amount, the amounts presented, too.
What's that?
The amounts presented. And you know, the fire department. Town chair, along with your.
316,
316, 225, and the police is 489.
137.19.
137.
Yeah.
But I think your spare fire.
You can. Withhold fire from them. Like it was.
So you didn't withhold anything.
All right, so motion's been made, do I hear a second?
One second.
Motion's been made and second, any further discussion? Here are none, all in favor state aye.
Right.
Aye, opposed? So move.
So we do apologize for. If we're late or anything like that, but when we started the budget process, we started at a 20% increase. We worked it down to 12.5, and our hope is to get it down to about 5.5 by the time we're done. So that's why we do the way we do it,
Okay,
On one particular budget or on all your budget?
on everything.
that was it,
We're at
right?
20%.
We started there, that's why it takes us 3
That
months
was
to go
almost
through.
my last day early.
Yeah.
Very interesting, that whole spreadsheet that got walked through on Monday night there.
Yeah.
Yep.
So thank you all, appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right.
Stay warm.
Yeah, it's gonna be brutal in a couple days. Right.
I'll be inviting you, I'll be watching this year.
Yeah, okay.
I sit in the corner office.
No one else came in to defend?
We already had theirs prior.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
all right. Thank you, good night.
Thank you. Next item, would be the highway department, even though it got approved. Previously, Kathy had some, final numbers that she put in it, so you want to explain to us what you did?
Basically, we lowered the salaries down a little bit, but. Recently, the overtime's been a little crazy, so I thought maybe we just bump it up to 4%, it's a little bit more in overtime than what I lowered the overtime, but I actually bumped it back up because. We could have more
Get through the
overtime,
winter,
right, exactly.
Yeah, I had that thought myself, the way.
And then the other one, I think I bumped the insurance up a little based on rates, and then. I think that was it.
Instead of a little over 9%, it's 8.53%.
How much is it?
8.53% decrease.
We won't have any times.
No, it won't happen again next year, but
No.
the one thing that might help us next year is we might put in for a class 2 paving grant. And if we get a class 2 paving grant, we could reduce that 450. The road resurfacing possibly, so we get some, and then. Well, the other thing next year is if we get Swanton Hill done. road improvement project, which we budgeted 64 this year, that's a possible save, so there are. A couple possible savings next year, we'll see. Oh, and then we got, was carryover, Kathy?
So they continue on without, the carryover was after we take care of the police for the next 3 months next year was 287,158. Joel had requested that from the Brooklyn Street stormwater to put carryover 19,998.60, the road improvement project 149.5, and the stormwater permits 35,837.50. Which leaves the balance on hand of 81,822.23 to put toward the highway taxes. Anticipate state aid at 150,000, judicial fees and highway permits about 6,000, and the balance of the cash on hand for the highway department gives us $237,822.23 to put toward the taxes, highway taxes to be collected in 2025. So basically, the amount, our total regular budget is $1,358,951.94. The amount to be raised by taxes will be $1,121,129.71. And then we have the fire department, which we voted on a separate line item, and police protection a separate line item. So our 2025 projected highway rate based on the current grand list, as you know, it will change, will be 3.426. Last year it was 3.652. So it's a decrease of 0.00226.
Kathy, just help me so I understand. We got the, I gotta find it again. To be raised by taxes, $1,121,129.
Yeah.
And then the budget regular, $1,358,951.94. What's the difference between those two figures?
Well, what I said is the regular budget is $1,358,951.94, and the cash on hand is the $237,822.23. Gets deducted, and then the 1.1 is the amount to be raised by taxes.
So we're gonna deduct from the 1358,091, we're gonna deduct 237,822.
Exactly.
That's how we got down to the 121.
Yes.
Thank you.
And that still was with us having those three carryovers.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
so
So we have those three carryovers and we are reducing 237,000 from that, which then
Well,
gets us.
Well,
Zero.
part of it,
we're
because
spending that carryover part of it.
actually. We had a total of 287,158.33 in carryover.
Yep.
And what we did, they budget leftover funds, I should say. So Joel had requested that we carry over the Brooklyn Street remaining amount in the budget. And the road improvement project 149.5 and the stormwater permits, because this is probably gonna happen next year. So it left out of that 287,000, it left 81,822.23 and money that we can use to lower the taxes going into next year for 2025. We anticipate state aid at 150,000, we get it quarterly. And then judicial fees, highway permits, that's fees we get for like speeding tickets, tickets that the police give out, and then we do permits for fleet permits and single axle permits for the trucks, and also driveway permits. So that money goes into there, and we
So
anticipate.
sorry, Kathy, just a point of clarification, so those tickets, that goes towards the highway, that does not go towards the police revenue?
No, it's separately, it's a separate item that we actually get from the state of Vermont, sends it to us based on their
Okay.
tickets as well.
Oh, interesting, okay,
Yeah,
so
we get
there
it,
be stadiums in the area.
Yeah,
giving tickets.
exactly. Yes.
Okay, interesting, thank you.
So then, so when you add those three items together, the highway, state aid, and the fees and the permits and the balance on hand, that gives us $237,822 to put toward the total budget. Highway budget, $1,358,951.94, which leaves the amount to be raised by taxes, the $1,121,129.71. And then the fire department gets voted on separately, and the police department gets voted on separately.
Kathy, I'm just going back to what we got earlier from the police department. I mean, I want to make sure those numbers fine. It says here that our police protection of 489,137. Is that?
Yep.
That number something?
That's right, I'm in
Okay,
the
got
art,
it, got it. Hang on, just wanna make sure.
alright, okay, yeah, that's fine.
So overall, if I'm reading this, right, because our highway budget is as high as it is. It's a 6.6% decrease between those three budgets together, when you take that 8.53. There's the fire and the police when you add it in there, when I look at the tax rate of 0.3426 and 0.0226 decrease. That comes out to a actually, I should have divided it by 2024, so it's slightly less.
So the only place that I still need clarification on is, I'm seeing in the to be raised by taxes at 0.1994
That would be the tax rate on that amount.
on that amount, but then we have a 2024 tax rate of 0.3652.
That's just showing what 2024's rate was compared to our 2025 rate. So the tax rate 2024 for this budget
Yeah,
was 0.3652. And the 2025 projected rate is 3.426, which gave a proposed decrease of 0.0226 going into 2025 over 2024.
So it's a 6.2% decrease.
Yeah, it does.
it's nice to see a negative on the sheets.
So with that being said, we should entertain a motion to approve the highway budget as presented tonight.
And Mr. Chair, if I may just mention, on the Brooklyn Street, I'm still intending on going after grant for that project because of the clean water, that stormwater that goes someplace. I feel that you qualify for some stormwater, so.
Hopefully, maybe we can get, will help reduce this next year or something, right?
Yeah, thank you. You all right, if we could get some paving money, but if we don't have, of course, we don't do any road improvement, we're putting enough money in there, we can keep the budget somewhere.
It should be close, yeah.
If you wanna do a project. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna have another big project like the Swanton, say, if we can get. One of those grants, that'll be good, and then we're also gonna look at putting in the, if they do the grant for the very culvert, very low culvert, we'll start that process, it might take 2 to 3 years, we'll even approve it, because of the price tag that's gonna be on that. Yeah, so I entertain a motion.
I would make a motion to approve the highway budget of $1,268,951.94.
What was it on again?
$1,268,951.94.
Okay.
What do you put?
The proposed, this top sheet here.
Oh,
And that's
Oh,
just the
no.
highway, not the whole.
We're gonna add something to that.
Yeah, the 90,000, you're gonna, it's actually
It's
the
another 90,000. What is that?
minus the 30, so actually the amount that.
How much do I have to approve?
So the 1.1 million, where it says to be raised by taxes.
Okay,
That's the amount.
okay, so I make a motion
But that, or just, can you, hang on just 1 second before you do that, that one. Oh, okay, you're right, that fire and police are after that, okay,
Alright, so I'll make a motion to approve the highway budget of 1.1. Or $1,121,129.71.
There we go.
to be raised by taxes for the highway budget.
I'll second that.
This on this sheet.
Motion's been made in second to approve. Highway budget to be raised by taxes of $1,121,129.71. Is there any further discussion? Here are none, all in favor state aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no moved. Moving on to the general.
So when we met the last time, I was missing 2 items for the budget. See the Franklin County tax, which is $67,821.29. And the Northwest Regional Planning amount, which is $8,246. So with all said and done, the budget for the general fund for any deductions is $1,001,640.49. With the this is what value rescue Swanton Library, Swanton Recreation. The total budget is $1,580,992.49, but those articles will be voted on separately.
That's the one up here, up there. the middle right,
On the far right,
like the 1589
yes.
That's the total.
Yes. So then we had left over. In our budget, 152,668.26. So under anticipated general receipts, I'm anticipating we're gonna get $50,000 in license and reporting fees, $40,000 in zoning and planning fees. The town share of the railroad tax, $8,472.12, and the balance on hand of $152,668.26 gives us a total cash available to put toward our 2025 budget of $250,140.38. So out of the $1,001,642.49, we deduct the $251,140.38. So the amount to be raised by taxes for the general fund is $750,502.10. Then separately, right on the bottom, on page 2.
Okay, gotcha.
Okay. So then the Mississippi Valley Rescue, we voted on separately, the library budget, we voted on separately, and the Swanton Recreation, we voted on separately, so the total. Taxes rate, projected tax rate for the general is 1.822. Last year it was 1.759, an increase of 0.0063.
You had a house of 300,000, what was that?
The left,
Say your house was worth 300,000.
another 0.063,
You had a balance on hand of 151,000.
yes.
That's a little higher than normal.
That's about the same. Everything fluctuates one way or the other, so.
Yeah. And I mean, I know 10% of the, that kind of the name includes interest earned on our account and stuff, right, that all.
Yes.
So the overall, if I did it right, it's 3.5%, and you take into account general, library, Mississippi Valley Rescue and Swanton. 0.0063 divided by 0.1759, 3.5%.
This number you got here, Brian, doesn't reflect any of the carryover, does it? No. Okay, that's what, you know, that doesn't sound right, well, that's wrong.
So you came up with a number, Joel, how much including the hello?
When you take into account the 4 budgets, the general. Shouldn't. There'd be another library budget item for this?
It's separate, it's the next budget.
Okay, yeah, I know it's separate, I just, but it's still everybody in Swan paid for that, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but it gets loaded on as a
But,
separate line,
yeah.
item, and it has a separate tax rate.
3.5% when you take into account those 4. Swanton Rec, Library, Mississippi Valley Rescue, and then.
The library is their operating,
Right,
So this increase you have here on the bottom, this 0.0063, that's just for the general budget,
That's-
that's an
that's
include,
everybody,
but that includes recreation and library,
yes.
everything.
yes.
Not the
And the
highway.
highway,
No, the highway is totally separate, they're on their own page, yeah,
so that's a slight increase there, what was the highway back?
it was a decrease in highway, I'm finding.
So we're not, overall, town taxpayers, tax rate is gonna go down.
Slightly, yeah.
Yeah, slight, like.
Between the two,
Okay.
one's a little over, one's a little under.
You know, the municipal county, that's good information, we should ask for a meeting.
Yep.
If you could, co-mingle all those and say overall,
Brian does that in the PowerPoint.
okay.
In the PowerPoint.
That's very useful.
I mean, yeah, because it's point. Well, this is highway, it's just. People in the town pay, but yeah, we definitely show that difference based on. So 3.5% is the increase, I'll entertain a motion to
Make that motion.
approve the general budget to be raised by taxes of 750,500.
You're right, sorry.
700, I got it this time, $750,502.10. Steve made the
One
motion.
second.
Seconded by Nicole, any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So moved. Move on to rec.
Maybe that's who's got it.
I was just going in the order they were
Yeah.
here. Oh, okay.
I'm sorry, I'm working on Brian.
Yeah, and I'm just,
Alright.
yeah, that's fine, So I'm Rex, the next one in the order too, as far as I stated it, but, yep,
So there's one of that.
yep. So I guess the first page shows us, fiscal year 25 budget. 24 budget, so it looks like what we're asking the taxpayers for, if I'm reading this right, is 239. So 2, is that correct? I know we discussed before a little bit, large portion of that increase is carrying some money for medical. I think some payroll in there with larger increases. What I would suggest is, if we're putting in a large amount for medical. If we make sure we carry that money in for medical, you know, that it doesn't migrate over without coming back and asking us.
Yeah, I mean, that's a, it's worth it, penny, but that's almost $250,000. That we're gonna spend, so with more clarification, we can put in there, any company.
Are you saying that we retain, like, we've added that into the budget? Let's retain that in there so that way there's no surprise in the future if somebody decides to not have medical insurance through the town?
Well, what happens if you put that line item in and you don't use it in that line item, you could migrate it into another line, and really, part of this big increase we're asking taxpayers for is for this medical that we may or may not use, so to me, we ought to save it, and if we don't use it, we should reduce the next carryover or reduce the next year's budget.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying,
No, I agree with that.
and it's because it's one that is rec as part of something, you know, the select board monitors a little bit, I just say we should just caveat that piece, cause that's such a large increase we're bringing to the public, and we state it that way to the public, so they understand.
I guess what happens is what if they overspend the budget? They end up using that money on something else.
Well, I think that's where they should come to us, if they realize that they need 5,000 more for field repairs, they come and say, we'd like to take it out of that medical line item. You know, I don't wanna get into micromanaging the
Right,
budget, but
right.
that's one item that's a big increase, and we should just say that's what that one line item needs to stay at, you know?
So they should come to us before they.
If they, you're right, if they needed to get a few thousand out of there, come to us and say,
And
we'd like to
when
move
we
it.
meet with Betsy's coming in on our next meeting, I guess, or we want.
Yep.
We should, you know, that should be part of the policy. That, you know, especially for that insurance, that's what gets spent for them, it's what do it.
But why are they coming to the next one?
We were gonna go over the bylaws. Yeah. We sent out the bylaws, make sure everybody had them, we wanted, I know we had some changes we wanted to make them.
Yeah, you might have sent me back an email before. But I sent you one, and it goes from my town account, and I don't have to get into it. Do we have bylaws that were more than 1975?
I'm sure there is, that would be a Betsy question, though, she would have those.
Okay, so when we get the new bylaws, she's gonna show us what's currently in use. And what we're proposing.
You can have Brian send her a message and I'm sure she
Oh,
would
yeah, I
do that.
agree. I think Earl agrees that anything is changed highlighted, so we
Yeah,
know
should
what
be.
to use.
It's hard to find it yourself unless it is actually highlighted. But I do have a question, Nicole, do you plan on using that George money? You don't know right now, do you?
As far
I
as,
mean, you know, cause you got enough there for 2 employees, to cover 2
Right,
employees,
it could be
full
2
family.
employees.
I've had to make changes and add somebody on my plan, so yes, that will change from last year. I don't know if Nick plans on taking that, but if, you know, he is eligible for it, we need to make sure the money's budgeted for it.
And we've got, included in that number for the salaries is a part-time employee.
Correct.
The new part.
If the budget passes a new part-time employee.
I got it, if you need it, you need it, but I'm comfortable with the committee adding more employees without the select board approving.
That's,
I
again,
know, I
something
mean, I
you
just want
take
to
a,
know, and I want the board to feel. I think we start adding more faces. We wouldn't do that in the highway department. So I think in this particular case, we should set that on hold until we agree to add another face to our number of employees. Probably go along with it, but I think we should have that option.
Well, that should be part of the policy then, really. But your point is valid, I believe, Steve, as far, you know, I understand what you're saying, it probably should come before the board, because in the end, we have to answer for all the money that gets spent in the community. It's not to tie their hands and micromanagement, but this is when you start adding staff, you know, that is a change.
so they, I do believe they did talk about it last year and we didn't add anybody on, but it is to continue to grow our programming. I spend a lot of time there and I think their concern is my burnout and having help to facilitate the programs that are currently
I'm sure that.
But I do believe it was spoken about prior.
Well, we can rationalize it, but I guess my point is. I'd like to know a lot more about it, and just because we talked about it last year and we didn't do it, that doesn't give it an automatic flow into this year as far as I'm concerned. I think we should be talking about it, because Betsy said here, and she's very good at getting back to me on some questions. The SB doesn't assist in our hiring process. I guess we don't.
Well,
No,
how does that, can I interject, cause I did. Our personnel policies and rules of employment, with Donna Swanton. Amended October 18, 2006, so it's very relatively current. Hiring practice. The Select board shall be responsible for the hiring of all employees except the assistant town clerk. So that's a policy that was signed in 2016.
So we should be advised.
So we certainly, and what I suggest. Is we won't do it. At the next meeting, but maybe when a couple of us are gonna take a few weeks off, is we review this and codify it, so it says. 'Cause I don't think we wanna get in, we don't wanna spend a lot of time tonight, 'cause we're on budgets, but we talked about. Part-time employees there, and if they got a whole bunch of part-time employees, seasonal employees. Maybe we don't wanna get involved in that, but if we're bringing on
Absolutely.
full-time, et cetera, employees, we put in here, and we just get it clear in here, so. But according to this, we
And this is
all
a
hires,
permanent part-time, is, I'm saying all the time. It's something I would agree, it's not like the kids they hire in the summer,
right,
which I understand, good for the kids too.
so I think we can clarify that, cause this is our policy says we're responsible, and then maybe we talk about it. When we look at their bylaws. Next meeting.
Yeah, I just think.
Which is good,
So-
so the only thing I would add to that, if they were gonna increase the number of part-time employees. But that's gonna be an increase in the budget. The number you have now, how many part-time employees did you have last year?
We only currently have seasonal employees.
Yeah, seasonal, same thing.
We have one seasonal maintenance employee and then depending on our camp staff. We do generally 4 in the food booth, but they only work 3 hours a shift and then. Depending on the number of children for camp, it's how many seasonal counselors we have, so last year we had 5.
Yeah, so. We can clarify that.
Yeah.
And-
I think even just codifying that seasonal versus part-time versus full-time, so that way. I think to the point here of like, when you start to add on the benefits, then it's not just that hourly rate that's coming in. And so I think there becomes a higher risk here of inflating budgets as, you know, so I
The only thing with seasonal, they don't really get any benefits.
Well, maybe the part-time.
No, but I think that's the
Seasonal,
difference.
you have
Oh, yeah.
the part-time person would have to work 30 hours a week, or 30 hours a week, every week. To qualify for any benefits.
Yeah, so right now you have
And they're
two full-time and just seasonal, is what
Correct.
you have, you don't have a part-time.
We're looking for part-time to do like 10 hours a week throughout the year. To bridge the gap from.
Yeah.
What Nick and I do to extending community services. Consistently.
Okay.
One of the things I'm concerned about this year is anytime. We talk about income. or whatever, our school budgets, whatever, have a tremendous. We get money from the elementary school or the high school or the supervisory union, do they pay us any money to do any programs? When I look at the income here,
No,
okay, all right.
no, but we partner on a lot of different things together. We use them as community partners quite often. For instance, the Vermont Youth Project was a contract that the supervisory union did, but pulled the rec in as a community partner to support their efforts. So it benefited us as we received returns on tangible goods like they bought a pizza oven through the grant process. We got to keep that as an asset to the rec department, but it was bought through the Vermont Youth Project through MBSD.
It's not a normal income, like, it was income, okay, it's good.
July 18th or June 18th, there'll be a community pizza party. It's called Pizza and Play.
Well, we need a we need a motion to approve this, right?
Yes, we do.
Or you got another question, Steve?
Well, let's act on that, I just have a suggestion when we meet with Betsy or whoever. We have that meeting, I'll second your motion.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion to approve the recreation budget for the amount of. You're gonna bring these later, okay? 239,602. 239.
Make a suggestion, if you may wanna put some wording in that motion about the public care. About restricting it.
Well, you don't have to,
Yeah. Be used in another. Just talk about it.
I suppose, yeah, I don't know, should we put it in a motion or should that be a call?
I think we could discuss it at the next meeting.
Yeah.
We're gonna talk about the bylaws
Yeah.
and. I think we've got it on record as a group here and we just need to make sure we communicate that.
It's your whole sitting right there, so keep.
I hear ya.
Yeah, cheers.
Alright, so the motion's been made, now do I hear a second?
I'm saying,
Motion's been made to second the Swamp Recreation 2025 budget, the amount of $239,000 or $239,602. Any further discussion?
Abstain from
Yeah.
voting.
Hearing none, all those in favor state aye. Aye.
and when we,
Oh, so
one second.
that's it.
When we meet with the representatives of the rec department, can you send me a list of questions that we'd like to have on the table?
Well, I think the meeting, we want to look at the bylaws, so if there's any questions regarding the bylaws, yes.
That one thing still sticks in the craw.
Yeah.
Um,
And the other thing we were gonna do that night was talk about our purchasing policy.
but I think, weren't we supposed to have a supplement for committees, because I've got the purchasing policy that you sent, which is good, like a multi-page document. What we're gonna, does that apply to committees, or are we gonna have a special purchasing policy for our committees?
I think it should be right in that one, that should be
Okay,
one policy, and that's what's missing in there, it doesn't have.
Yes.
Rec department, so to me, it's like, we should add that in there and put the amounts that's part of. The town of Swanton operations, yeah, I think so.
it just makes things better.
Yeah.
Like I said, I have an issue with a loan one. And that Ryan kept in the statutes clear that the committee cannot obligate the town. So we've got to handle that issue.
Yeah, and that's what I think is part of our purchasing and we can try to do that, absolutely.
Okay, good.
Okay. Moving right along. Swanton Public Library. And it looks like 80,260 is what you're looking for compared to 70,900 budgeted last year.
No, we got that short deal, but we have that money every year to do that.
It's a 380% operating.
it got increased this year.
Oh,
Oh, you're on the wrong budget.
Yeah, this is just a library operating budget. No,
I'm still locked up on $1,000 to 4,800. But like I said, that's the software increase, so. Right?
For bookkeeping,
Yeah, or no, they used their bookkeeper more than they expected. From 1,000 to 3,900 what they actually spent, and then now they're upping it to 48.
They never had anybody actually do any work that they do themselves. They have a person they contract with, right, you know what she is, right?
This is a new bookkeeper?
this is, I believe it's the one that they've been using.
Is there like a bookkeeper for the town itself that we use across departments? You know, whereas in individual contracts, but
We don't have, rec has their own bookkeeper. The library has their, happy the treasurer.
not that could only get
Should we ever consider that we have one person who's taking the vote for the.
No. I don't. Kathy takes care of the,
Oh, yeah, she does a good job with that.
I can tell you the state would like that. And a lot of cities have going through, you know, that's, we can't do a library.
Oh, and
the only other two that we really have to take care of are the library and recreation.
Right, but, you know, that's, second of the time, it's a considerable load on.
well, we obviously would have to give some help to Kathy. Can't keep moving around.
Yeah, so for right now, I'd entertain a motion to approve the Swanton Public Library operating budget. For $80,260.
I'll move to approve that budget for the 80,260.
Do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
We get that number, Joel.
It's,
I'm looking at,
oh, no, that's the payroll and bill maintenance,
Second page.
something like Jim.
oh, that one, yeah.
We're gonna put those together, you know? We know exactly what.
Well, we will on slide presentation, they have to be voted on, so.
Yeah, I know.
And so right after the rec there, yeah,
one more
go the
page.
second,
The only other thing, they didn't, I understand why they didn't do this, there's no projected revenue coming in from 2025. I understand why they can't put it in there. But do they have a feel of what they might get? I'm sure the two trusts are pretty consistent in what they're going to do. Grants, gonna be tough to raise money this year. The rest of it's small. Do you think they, I mean, if they got an extra $35,000 or $40,000, would that $80,000 that we're approving, would that get reduced?
No, that's on top of that.
I think if they receive additional grants, they have additional programming or additional offerings. Most, from my understanding, most of the grants they get go to cover programming costs directly.
Do they charge fees for parents that come in to bring their kids to the program?
A lot of the grants that they receive require that there be no fees.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that.
And then I think the two, and I don't remember that discussion was had, that their funds they have, Webster.
Scottsdale.
They use that money specifically every year for books, that's where they do their purchases of that stuff with that budget.
I looked at one of those, first of all, it was great to read it, written 100 years ago. And it probably would stand the test of time, the way it was written. One of them we couldn't find the basis for it.
Well, I think there's some restrictions on how they can use
Oh,
it.
absolutely,
Yeah,
yeah.
that's why it's get used.
Guys gotta be blue.
Yeah.
all right, any further discussion on the library budget? Hearing none, all in favor state aye.
Right.
Aye, opposed, so moved. Now it's the other library budget, which is the building and payroll. That would be the next one, Pat, one we're just looking at.
So last year. We spent 28,000 insurance, and this may be covered 70, but you're covering everybody, right? even though they're not using
They will be using
it,
it,
they will,
yes.
no, that's gonna show up in a roll over here somewhere, in reduce the amount, we have to raise by taxes for the.
There's no rollover.
There's no roll.
The budget was 227,086, and it was 222,262,79 was spent, but there was also some building maintenance that was done that
Yeah.
wasn't planned on. They had to replace that compressor and something else, so. And also incorporated in this budget, oh no, the compressor replacement's coming. And the building maintenance, if you look at the bottom, there's a compressor replacement for $3,760 and sprinkler system replacement for $6,590 is added into the building maintenance.
So that's why.
So that's why there's a jump in it, because those two things need to be done, and they're gonna be done this year.
And employee salaries have seen up 12.21%. Shouldn't it be the 4%?
No, we don't really control their salaries.
Oh, okay, so that's not part of when we say it's 4, that's not part of it.
We did before, we did last year,
They were pretty good about that last time.
they wanted the big, but we did goes over what we had done for everybody else, but not 12%.
Well, what happened in beginning of November? There was an email sent to increase they had given their full-time people a pay increase effective immediately.
Did that come to us?
You can talk to you about it.
Must have came before the meeting, because I do
Yeah,
remember.
so we
that,
did
yeah.
talk about it,
Yeah, I believe we did.
And they had the authority to do that,
yes.
and you pay for it.
Well, that's, yeah, it's interesting that they do that, but they're paid for by the.
Yeah.
By the town.
But everyone else, here's your 4%, but they get just like.
But you know, a couple of years ago, they wanted some substantial salary increases, and we put the kibosh to that. So it sounds like they caught up this year.
Or do they have another part?
No, they don't, no, they don't.
That's an interesting one for us to discuss further over the course of the year, because it's, they're employees,
Yeah.
right?
Well, they're not, Brian, you can explain it.
When the town has library trustees, the library trustees, by state law, have the full control, including salary and benefits of the library. As an old state law that probably needs to, no problem, it needs to be changed. And we're not gonna be down, this gets harder.
Yeah, I don't have a real big issue with it, it's just interesting that they're town employees, they're at least using us for the benefits and everything, that's why we switched to it, right? So they could get benefits and things.
Well. God, that was such a go round. It came about because basically by the statutes and what's written. They're considered town employees, but they're not really, we don't really control it.
Okay.
Like based on the
So can I
statute,
ask a question though, if tomorrow they decide that, how many, they've got 2 employees?
2 full-time and then six
So
part-time, maybe 5 part-time.
so let's say tomorrow they decide the 2 full-time employees deserve $200,000 apiece. We don't have any control over that, the town just has to pay.
I don't believe that, we don't have to go, because I know last year. They wanted a big increase.
That's
at the end.
because they agreed to it.
They agreed to it.
But
They
this
didn't
year,
have to agree to it.
yeah, but this year they didn't even come and ask us for an increase, I would just assume it was gonna be 4%.
Well, they did get the 4%, but they did a special increase back in November.
We didn't know about that.
What
That's a special increase in the.
yeah, they talked about it.
I thought we talked about it at a meeting here, but now I'm thinking, I don't remember if we approved it, I have to go back and.
Well, we-
Well, you don't approve
You
it.
have no. you
It
have
was
no-
just an FYI.
But to get back to what,
Yeah.
you brought up, I would, just a suggestion, yeah, they probably have that authority. But we could refuse to give it to them and they take us to court,
I just-
that would be excessive.
The only-
use of that order.
The only remedy we have is we will not agree to put this on the,
Right.
Right,
in the annual
that's right.
report or whatever we. They can say, no, we don't want it.
I just think that's a scary notion that they can choose and then the town is liable to pay it.
Well, the voters have to approve the budget, so that's where, and it would be pretty ugly, because if we didn't put it on the the ballot. Then it becomes in the newspaper, we're gonna, fight part of this war and stuff, but. That is one of the options if it were to get too out of control and then explain to the public, this is what's happening, and then the public decides whether they're gonna approve the budget or not.
And we could combat this by saying, we would just approve last year's allocation. Change what they're asking for, and just say, we're gonna get exactly what we gave last year.
Maybe obligated to warn what they asked for, I don't know, guess we could check into that a little bit more, but. At the present time, I don't see their salaries being outliers at all compared to other libraries. And, they do have a lot of activity going on there.
Oh, I think they do a great job.
Yeah.
So we're not getting, I don't think we're overpaying at this point in time.
But the only question we have is really good employees here. They got a 4% raise. We got employees over which we have no control across the street, over here. We got pretty good raises. If I were a town employee, I'd expect quite an explanation. I guess we could explain.
It's been talked about for years that they're trying to equalize the rate of pay to be competitive with other libraries across the state. And I, to my understanding, that's what the trustees did, is they gave their full-time employees a rate increase so that they would have a more competitive wage. So it's something that has been talked about before.
Oh, I know, but they were quick to acquiesce a couple of years ago, we talked about this. And they came up with the same argument, and I understand.
But it wasn't, but a few years ago, it wasn't for their full-time employees, it was to give their part-time employees a more livable wage where they were making, just a hair over minimum wage, they wanted to increase the salaries of the part-time employees so that it was a more livable wage.
Alright, well, I guess I'll make a motion to approve the library payroll and building maintenance budget for. I get this right now, $307,776.36.
Here's a second,
I'll second.
motion been made, second to approve the library building. And payroll for $307,776.36. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those favors state aye. Aye. Opposed? So moved.
This can be on your presentation, the 35.52%.
Yep.
Yeah. Viscoy Valley Rescue. Where does it show the?
Second page.
Yeah. Community support, they're asking for $259,490 and last year was $229,761.
Take up that same thing, but
Dispatching,
so they must go through the same dispatch as me, so.
it's a 12.9% increase, when you look at all the little things that were increased, but
Do you know how what the status is, behind or what the pulse is up in Highgate? Because they're gonna put whether Highgate goes with our rescue squad or whether they go in here. That's on the budget, on the ballot.
Right, my understanding was the difference of $600, they're putting it on the ballot, but from the people I've heard from there, this is going, but no, I don't.
They have left,
Really small.
they have left Mrs. School
They did.
once and then they got in a lot of trouble over it and the voters voted back, wanted to go back to Mrs. School.
I talked to Wendy and she said they just decided to put it out to vote and the voters can decide.
I'm sure there are all the fixed expenses in the NVR. Operating numbers. I'm just curious, we don't know who knows that, but. If Highgate pulls it out, some of these fixed expenses aren't gonna be down.
no, that's
So we could go up.
Well, they're gonna be in big trouble, the rescue squad will be in big trouble,
Yeah.
they're gonna be in financial, if like 8 weeks.
They do a good job, they really do.
And then you're gonna get stuck with AM care.
So can I ask this is probably a dumb question, if I call 911 today. And I get picked up by them and brought to the hospital. Do I get a bill for the ambulance?
Yes.
It depends,
Well, yeah, it's a,
They do
it
get
depends.
if you subscribe to them, don't you not get a bill because you're a subscribed
If you
member?
pay $75
Right.
additional, this is a taxpayer paying. You get a bill and your insurance, if you have health insurance covers a certain amount.
In here.
Maybe we can take this offline or outside. But why are we paying for a service that then our taxpayers then have to pay again to get that service if they're already paying once essentially ahead of time?
This budget would be a lot higher.
Yeah, 660,000 they're looking at building it. To reduce the budget by. So that would have to be made up.
I guess that's where I start to get confused of why we're paying for their medical supplies and everything else if. They're then charging somebody else for. Those same services that we're prepaying.
They'd have to charge considerably more,
You would add 575,000
yeah. To the village.
to the budget. They send out and get 575,000, well, they're estimating $660,000. Of money by billing, so if they don't bill, then you add that 660 to their request of 259,
But
right?
your insurance might pay for, I mean, your insurance itself might pay for.
Right.
Right,
I didn't realize, I guess, I get this thing every year, it's a big lawsuit card, which I'm sure is expensive to make. And they sent it to me because we have a business. But it didn't say anything about the meter, right?
sent to individuals too,
Yeah.
I get it,
Okay.
and that's what I think the line item under community support is. Under receipts, 318,610. I think that's that if you buy into that so that you don't get billed if you get picked up at all. That's what I think that's part of their,
Better send them a check, I thought we were all covered. You just do this in our business.
Just the little history lesson here, May, when they first started, they were strictly volunteer and you did your subscription and that was it. Like everything, the costs kept going up and up and up. And so that's when they approached the two select boards and the village trustees at the time, of which I was a member, to get some tax support. With the understanding now, I made the suggestion that rather than negotiate with three boards, why don't you just do it with select board, Swanton. Go on general and pays and everybody was agreeing with that. But they believe the agreement with the select boards for that you bill it. Make sure you bill the people. So as most people are covered by insurance. Medicaid. Medicare, so.
You're something.
and one of their increases was to bring on. Another employee, because the number of calls what they explained to us when they came in, that's why you see the payroll has a significant
They're really up against it, they work hard.
They're not very high paid.
Well,
The
he told us-
EMTs aren't very.
He told us they only increased the salary by 2% this year. Wow.
It's pretty much a decrease when you look at inflation, you know?
Yeah. Copies up there, isn't it?
Entertain a motion.
Well, I'll make a motion to approve the rescue budget for the emails, $259,490.
Wait a second.
I'll second it.
Motion's been made and seconded. Any further discussion? All those in favor state aye.
Well, great, thanks.
Opposed? So moved. Okay, go back. See if I can find my agenda. We got all the budgets covered, right? Any other necessary business? Hearing none, public comment. Next regular select board meeting is next Tuesday. 6 P.M.
We have one more meeting. That's it.
No.
When you have Wednesdays with the plan and that's a joint meeting.
The regular board, once we just.
At the village.
Joint board.
And
Brian,
that's at 5:32.
Cover the village.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of work in that document.
Yes.
There's what?
Before we go into executive session, when we're talking about that document. Christina, I got a hard copy from you of the proposed changes. Now, I heard some of the stuff that they lined out, they might have changed their mind on some of that. Have anybody heard that? I don't really wanna look at this document and find out that it's not what I'm looking at.
The only thing that they really changed after that document was sent was setbacks. So they had already agreed to lower the setbacks in R1 to 150. But then after the discussion at the last meeting, if you're going to 150 feet, you can't have side setbacks at 50 feet on each side.
It's
There's
frontage,
50 feet.
150 is frontage.
Yes. So you can't have 50 on each side, that leaves you 50 feet to build.
Right.
So I believe they're all going to 25
Yeah,
outside.
it would side.
They're leaving the backs.
It would be nice to send a little note out to everybody that should be reviewing this, if that's the case.
Because they had a separate setback, I think, for quarter acre lots, didn't they, what I read?
Pre-existing small lot.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
Yeah, down on Guam, it's a big deal.
Yeah. And then Lakewood Drive and
Oh, yeah, there's a few around.
There's a lot of them.
yeah.
On the, what would that be, the side across the
But they
street
would
from
be
the lake, is that the
pre-existing
west
at that.
side? On the east side of the front door, well, there's probably,
Pre-existing.
says 35 on just that stretch for the window, that possibly sometime next week.
Go ahead. Yeah. Alright, so executive session, I'll entertain a motion. Oh, we don't have our standard verbiage. here.
No, we don't.
Oh, yeah, no, here it is here, it is here.
Oh, okay, good.
I'll make a motion, I move that we find that we enter executive session for the select board to receive confidential. Personnel information, is that what you said, Brian?
Yeah.
Personnel information for which the premature disclosure of it to the general public would clearly place the select board and others at a substantial disadvantage.
Alright.
Yeah.
Steve,
Second.
alright, roll call vote, Steve.
Yep.
Brennan. Well, Nicole.
Yes,
Oh, yes.
I move that based on our just made findings.
Yes, we should wait.
Move that we exit executive session.
I'll second.
Motion made second to exit executive session, any discussion? You're none, all those in favor say aye. Entertain a motion to adjourn,
Is that, how many of you guys are up for the election, or running this year, you?
just do it. Entertain a motion to adjourn.
I'll move.
I'll second.
Well,
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's it.
Next week will be a busy week.
Change my mind.